What up? What up? Getting ready to share the screen real fast. And just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. You know, glad you made it. Praying for those who didn't make it. Praying for the souls. But we're going to jump off right into, I don't know, just some basic stuff. First I just want to just really elaborate several things. First, let's talk about the what I wanted to actually call this video, and it was supposed to be called "Corporate Greed: Hands Washed in Filth." What's up, Tammy? Uh, uh, it was. There's a lot of different things I want to talk about, you know, but first we're gonna just speak on the shutdown. Now, I know it's only a partial government shutdown, but I got this article I wanted to show you guys just real quick, and we're gonna go ahead and pick it up from there. Damn, and come on, quit acting funny. And where is it at? One second. Page. There we go. Bear with me now. Here we are. Okay. Like that. Pull this up, and I'm gonna try to make it just a little bigger, not much bigger. So let's go down. In shutdown, national parks transformed into Wild West, heavily populated and barely supervised. So before we even carry on into the article, I want you to understand that's what the Wild West was. Places were densely populated and they were barely supervised, which is hence the term wild. I'm talking about droves and droves of people left left the East Coast, going to the West, so that way they could get out of the aristocracy that had already begun over there. However, and this is this is after the Civil War mainly. There's a little travel pre-Civil War, but a lot of this stuff is after the Civil War. Carrying on. Joshua Tree, California. The government shutdown has left America's national parks largely unsupervised. No one is at the gate. No one is collecting a fee. The visitor centers are closed. There are some law enforcement and emergency personnel on site, but certainly nothing as standard as a park ranger who can answer a question. People are streaming into the parks, enjoying the free access, but they are finding trash cans overflowing and restrooms locked. Vault toilets are not serviced, and there's hardly a flush toilet to be found anywhere. If nature calls, well, the woods are over that way. At Joshua Tree National Park, in particular, conditions are deteriorating. And this is in quotes. One of those porta potties fill ups, there's no amount of cleaning that will save them, said Seba Purdy, who, along with her husband, Seth, owns the rock climbing guide services Cliffhanger Guides in the town of Joshua Tree. At that point, I think I'm going to have to tap out. The 40-year-old Purdy is among dozens of volunteers who have been collecting garbage, cleaning bathrooms, and generally keeping an eye on our park. Local business owners and park supporters are donating toiletries and cleaning supplies. People are doing it because we love this place, and we know how trash it'll get if we don't. It's not quite like the Lord of the Flies yet, said Brian Min, 30, who traveled to Joshua Tree with friends from Orange County and are camping outside the park. Who knows how it'll be tonight? And this is just some of the cars just everywhere. That's crazy. Partial government shutdown triggered by the dispute between President Trump and Congress over funding for a U.S.-Mexico border wall is now well into its second week with no resolution in sight. Democrats who take control of the House on Thursday plan to vote on a bill to open much of the government while denying Trump money for the wall. The president, in a tweet on Tuesday, rejected the legislation that provides border security money, but no funds for the wall. Trump also invited congressional leaders to the White House on Wednesday for a briefing on border security, the first sit-down since the shutdown began on December 22nd, though it was unclear if the session would break the budget and pass. One of the most dramatic repercussions of the shutdown will arrive Wednesday, when the Smithsonian Institution, having depleted temporary funding, will close all of its museums and the National Zoo. Some parks across the country have remained partially operational with state funding. Government shutdown contingency plans adopted by the National Park Service last year have allowed many national parks to remain accessible, but without staffing. Listen to this right here. They knew that they were going to do this. Did you guys hear that? Government shutdown contingency plans adopted by the National Park Service last year have allowed many national parks to remain accessible, but without staffing. They knew they were going to do this. The result is that closed parks are essentially wide open, and in some cases, that gives them a Wild West vibe. Holy smokes! Did you guys hear that? The result is that closed parks are essentially wide open, and in some case, that gives them a Wild West vibe. Who knows what's going down on these freaking national state parks right now, y'all? There's nobody to go and answer to a lot of this stuff. They have basic emergency services, basic law enforcement, but law enforcement ain't about to go out there messing with nobody who's got more firepower than them. Anyway, the Park Service runs a broad constellation of parks, monuments, battlefields, and historic sites. At Antietam National Battlefield in Maryland, the visitor center has a small notice on the front door advising visitors to use extreme caution if choosing to enter park property. On the hallowed ground where the Army of the Potomac collided with the Army of Northern Virginia in the bloodiest days of American military history, the flagpole in the front of the visitor center remains conspicuously bare. The access road to Maryland's Great Falls of the Potomac, part of the C&O Canal National Historic Park, have been blocked. At midday Tuesday, hundreds of cars were linked up at the nearby neighborhood roads and streets as people walked into the park, many taking advantage of the canal tow path, which remains unblocked. The situation is fluid. Rumors spread Monday that the Joshua Tree would close the campgrounds through the park's services contingency plan indicates that campers will be allowed to stay and won't be evicted. They don't have the manpower to do so. Can y'all dig it? They don't have the funding to send in the right forces to get all those people up out of there. Some advocates for the parks aren't happy about the situation, fearing that visitors will do permanent damages to the parks and potentially disrupt fragile ecosystems. They'd like to see the parks fully closed. The parks are supposed to be heritage sites for generation after generation. I would rather they close than be damaged, said Joe DeLuca, a sales associate at Nomad Ventures in the town of Joshua Tree. Holding a government shutdown, Joshua Tree was closed to all visitors. The winter holiday season is a busy time here and important for local businesses. And some people are grateful that the park hasn't blocked access this time, said Kenji Harwatunian, president of Friends of Joshua Tree, a nonprofit local climbing organization. But he's not happy with the shutdown and the attendant loss of normal services in the huge park that he said is within a 2-hour drive of 14 million people in Southern California. It's hugely disappointing, Harwatunian said. The border wall dispute, he said, is not a priority that deserves to close down the government. At the Big Bend National Park in Texas, George Cashman of Milwaukee said he was disappointed by the absence of park rangers. Last year, he said he took his family, including 4 kids under the age of 10, to Yellowstone, where the kids enjoyed the Junior Ranger program. There are no rangers to talk to and help the kids out. Last year, one of the rangers in Yellowstone let them take the temperatures of one of the geysers. Those memories aren't going to happen this year, Cashman said. Greg Hennington, owner of Far Flung Outdoor Center in Terl- Terlingua, a town just outside of the park, he said he voted for President Trump, but blames the president for the shutdown, which he says creates confusion and uncertainty for local businesses. If we are going to continue to use the federal government as a weapon for not getting what we want in the sandbox, then this is untenable for small businesses. We can't make decisions. We lay off employees. We take cancellations, he said. Even more seriously affected is the Mexican town of Boquillas, which is just across the Rio Grande from the national park and has always enjoyed a stream of visitors this time of year. But the border crossing, normally staffed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, has been closed during the shutdown, and no one is coming or going across the river. It's been terrible. We were waiting for our best times of the year, said Lilia Falcon, who owns a restaurant and a bed and breakfast in Boquillas. It's when we wait and stock up and save the money we make the rest for the rest of the year. It's when we wait and stock up and save the money we make for the rest of the year. Christmas has not been good for us because of the shutdown. But what can we do? Nothing. Nobody will ever hear us. In Death Valley National Park, employees of the Oasis at Death Valley, a private escort inside the park, have joined other concessionaires in picking up trash and cleaning bathrooms, said Trey Matu. Like it could be Matthew, but I'm not sure. General manager of the resort. We're going in for the long haul, he vowed. At Yellowstone National Park, access this time of year depends on grooming of snow-covered roads, but the National Park Service is shut down. But the National Park Service's shutdown plan does not consider such activity to be essential. That means the private concessionaires have had to pull their money to pay for the grooming. If we don't do this, we're closed. That's really not much of an option. Having said that, we're doing this certainly in hope and anticipation that the shutdown does not go on indefinitely, said Rick Honenhagen. These guys with these crazy fucking names, man. Director of Sales and Marketing for Xanterra Travel Collection, a concessionaire in Yellowstone and many other parks. Back at Joshua Tree, Sabrina Crafton, 50, who traveled to the park from London for some New Year's climbing, says she appreciates the hard work by volunteers who are collecting lifters and donating toilet paper. I think they actually provide better roles than the government, Crafton said. It's better quality paper. Wow. So obviously she's somebody who comes there often. So with that said, let me go ahead and shut that down. Bam. Whew. Let me go ahead and elaborate on this young article just a little bit. So there's several parts to it that are very, very, very interesting. But I just wanted to talk about how this whole year is gonna like look. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's already started stupid, but what to look forward to. So you see, it's taken a very short amount of time for people to show who they really are. You understand? Now, what people need to ask themselves, right, is what kind of people can afford to go out there at this time of year? These campers and these climbers and this, that, and the other people from London. What kind of people who has the dividends for that, right on? You know, and that's not a racial question. That's not anything. That's just a real question. You know, who has the money for that? So when you're talking about people who have that sort of money, now you're talking about a certain type of mentality. Now, why am I bringing this up? Is because it spoke on in the article in particular, which is what I couldn't wait to get to, how there was a contingency for this already last year. They already knew last year they were going to do the shutdown. You see what I'm saying? Um, I'm not sure exactly how much money they've already saved per day with this little partial shutdown or whatever. But I'm quite confident that the plan is to, if they don't fund the wall, the shutdown will last as long as it takes to save the money for the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how long the partial shutdown will last. Uh, Considering that it would have to stand up against foreign hostilities and unforeseeable situations and whatnot. Uh, that's the plan, though. I mean, just like I didn't want to say that Donald Trump was going to be president at first, right? But like, if Trump folds on this whole wall thing, it's not like he'll just lose his whole base. It's the Republican Party won't stand a chance in 2020 for the so-called elections. So there's a lot riding on this little move, you know. And I don't normally talk about the politics stuff, but I really do understand it very well. Um, and at this point in this junction, I I I know for a fact that, you know, like, these little government shutdowns, right? Like, okay, so it doesn't seem like it hurts people a lot just yet, but let's say it goes a whole month or 2 months in and people haven't been paid. The videos that I uploaded the other day talking about the dollar stores and then supermarkets being, you know, and businesses like that, you know, like supermarkets being bought out and then dollar stores popping up. What I didn't elaborate on in those videos, in either one of them, and I wanted to do a bridge video, but I said, no, forget it, I'll wait till the live stream, is I'm quite sure that the same people who buy those companies and sell them, drive them into the ground, I'm sure that these are the same people who probably invest in building the dollar stores and the Dollar Generals in the neighborhoods that they're taking the supermarkets from. So if the question is poor nutrition, then you could ask, are they attacking the nutrition from the highest levels down? You see what I'm saying? While still trying to take the foundation out. And the reason why I say that is because they wanted to point out all these black communities, right? Well, let me pull up one of these maps and then let me show you guys the exact, not the problem, but I mean, maybe I'm just the only one seeing it like this, you know. And I'm gonna show the picture. Oh, here we go with this nonsense. 1 second. Okay, I love it because it actually has the real thing. So it's gonna show all 10 years. 1 second. I'm gonna probably pull up the other ones too. One moment. Okay, I can only do one at a time. Close. Current time. There we go. 1 second, please, 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 and thank you. All righty, here we are. What's up? Okay, so let's watch these years, okay? It's not going to slow down, but we're going to watch it a few times and just get what I'm talking about. Look all throughout the entire US, right? It starts 11 years ago in 08. And what's so important about this is that look how densely they come into what you obviously the East Coast, right? These are the dollar stores that popped up. I need y'all to understand this. Look at the Midwest, right? Now look at the West Coast. Now look at some of these border West Coast, border Midwest states. There's not as many of them in these areas like North Dakota, South Dakota type bullshit. You know what I'm saying? This is why when the guy said that they didn't want to lose their Vermontiness, because they don't have a lot of those things out there. And as much as they may struggle, the price for food is probably comparative. Give me one moment. I'm gonna exit this off. And I'm gonna pull up another one. It's the other one that I had, because there's 3 of them I had all together, but I want to show y'all this one. So this is just a picture. I love it. Just blow it up so I pull up the screen. Alrighty. Bam. Okay. So as we can see, SNAP authorized dollar stores per 10,000 residents, 2008. Now, the reason why this is so important, this is why I let y'all see that map, right? Y'all got to understand. In 08, the West Coast is like, nah. A lot of the Midwest is like, nah, right? Some of the Midwest is like, cool. Moving more to the eastern side of the U.S. Now follow me. See all these northern states right here. All these places over here. No. 11 years ago, they didn't do it. But you got to understand, when you seen the map, there wasn't a bunch of dollar stores over in these areas too. There was all the dollar stores are over here. Now, why this is important? What I'm talking about with the whole overall grand scheme of everything. If you were to smash out somebody's nutritional value system, right? You have poor health, you don't think right. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, it's easy to impress things upon you. People are worried about a government shutdown, but what they should really, actually, truly, honestly be worried about outside of the shutdown is, how is this going to affect your job? You see what I'm saying? What businesses or federal functions does the business or the job place that you work at, right? How intertwined are they? And I know people are like, well, my job doesn't have anything to do with the federal government. So says your understanding. Unless you're the person who actually deals with everything on the books, or you deal with your own business because it's yours, then that's totally different. But for a person to assume anything else outside of that otherwise, I can't co-sign that. However, these dollar stores are a sign of like this is almost like what they did back in like the early 1900s with oil and stuff like that. You see, and then learning how to use gasoline. They didn't so places that were hard up on letting the railroads go through them, places that were hard up on selling out, all those places that put up a fight. These were the type of places that they didn't show any love to, right on. Places where you didn't find these types of resources, or these natural resources weren't found. You didn't have to worry about that. One of the strongest economies in the world right here. Another one of them, well, used to be right here. You go over to the East Coast. This is why when you see New York and all this stuff, all these Eastern Seaboard states moving up, they all have stronger or better economies. You see what I'm saying? It's not till you move to the inside where you have states that have much more vast disparities of wealth. You know what I'm saying? And the gaps in the wealth. The poor blacks in Atlanta versus the rich blacks in Atlanta, how much money either party has is disgusting and incredible. And then if you place like like Alabama, where there's blacks who are doing okay, but there's a lot of poor black people in Alabama. You know what I mean? Florida, the same thing. There's black people who do okay in Florida, but there's a lot of poor black people. Same thing about Louisiana, same thing about Texas. When I I could name all these states that once again, where you're gonna find a robust black population in which they would be targeted health-wise. Now, based on the Rome statutes of the Geneva Conventions, that's genocide. You know what I'm saying? That is a form of genocide. Now, what's funny about that, because they're using it to harm you. They're using a system to harm you, right on, and they know what they're doing, because if you're taking out the supermarkets and you're putting back dollar stores that some of them sure sell produce, but by and large they don't. So the argument is that they're selling people junk food for cheap. And the reason why they keep coming back is because it's cheap, but their health is not good because they're eating cheap junk food. It's amazing. I had a guy come and get into my freaking comment section about one of the videos, and he says, with the straight face, obviously I couldn't see him, but I'd assume it was with the straight face. He said something to the tune of this is January 1st, and your first line was the opening line on MSN I read just a minute ago. Now, what's funny is that he's saying that he read it on MSN, and he goes in to say that uh, that this is the same leftist bullshit that's ruining the country, and that it's not the government's job to teach assholes how to eat what's good for themselves and stuff like that. And he was like, if they keep going this way, you people are going to keep changing stuff, and Obama's going to have, and it's going to turn into Obama's dream nation. And I just laughed because I'm just thinking in my head, several times this guy said things and like fumbled the ball, but I didn't come at him, super crucial. All I really said was like, well, first off, those assholes you're talking about, by and large, many of them are poor whites, and then I just let him know that, I thought it was funny, that he made it a political thing, and there's nothing political about my stance as far as the food stamps. What up, bro? What up? There's nothing political about my stance with food stamps and dollar stores or whatever. My whole prognosis of the entire situation, if people didn't realize, is what I was trying to show y'all was this is how they've been able to open up all these dollar stores. If you didn't hear what the article said, let me repeat it based on memory. There's more dollar stores and Dollar Generals than there are Walmarts and McDonald's combined in the United States. Did you hear me? There's more Dollar Trees and dollar stores and Dollar Generals than there are McDonald's and Walmarts combined. So with that said, and they're only growing. With that said, well, where do you think it's going? Where do you think this, it's not just poor people who shop at these dollar stores. There's people who are well off, above middle class. Some of these people, I would probably argue, are silent millionaires or high level 100,000aires. And what's going to happen is they're going to keep shutting down these grocery stores. You guys are seeing it happen around you, and they're going to keep opening up these dollar stores, but it's going to start happening in more affluent parts of town. This whole government shutdown, this, that, and the other, it does to certain degrees affect your trade deals and this, that. There's so many different things I could talk about that this actually does affect, and it will affect in the long term. But for right now, let's just talk about how they're trying to treat people with the food. And what they're doing with this food is really evil, because on one side of the fence, you have this very legitimate argument that we're feeding the impoverished and the oppressed. I totally understand that. But then on the other side of this argument, which is the side that I tend to more or less see, is that you're giving them garbage food. It's not like they're buying imperfect produce to promote with all the other foods that they're selling, right? They're only buying Little Debbie's, and whatever other semi home brand or home name brand products that they can have that they know that people will buy. You see, and sure, there's beans and there's rice and there's things that are more nutritional that you can go and buy and eat out of there and probably sustain yourself for a very long time and keep your body in health if you're gonna keep that kind of diet. But if you go into a place like that and you see cheap candy and cheap chips and cheap this and cheap that, you're gonna buy it. Um, there's a level of vanity and indulgence that I expect people to partake in, you know. And when I don't see them indulge in whatever other people indulge in, I wait for their indulgence because there's something they indulge in. Believes that. However, we're talking about a plan, and it's obviously a concerted effort because they closed down an entire branch of fucking grocery markets. Are y'all hearing me? A whole branch. See, look, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. That's madness. But that's the point that I'm talking about right there is that they already felt what was going to happen. The trade war, all this stuff is just the highest level corporate executives fucked up the money so bad, right? They fucked up the money so bad that now they're just trying to cover their asses. Everybody's just trying to cover their ass. So at the end of the day, if you're gonna say, you know, a government shutdown and you know it's the wall that caused it, really, I could argue that it's the trade war that caused it, and it's to slow the damage of what this trade escalation is really gonna do. People really gotta understand, you know. People gotta really, gentlemen. I totally understand what both of y'all are saying because I see it out here in Washington. They tried to put it off on black people, this article, but that was bullshit. You see what I'm saying? That and I wanted y'all to see how it all these supermarkets, right? You're telling me that out of the 100 stores that they had, right? And then the other hundreds of mini locations that they had, you're telling me that out of all of them that they sold, not one of them got turned into a dollar store? Not one? Listen, y'all, you're saying that not one out of hundreds of locations during a time where in which the recession was in full blown and these guys thought that they were going to be able to save this business. Okay. And they weren't able to. You're telling me that you don't think that out of the some 20 to 30,000 stores that are already dollar stores and Dollar Generals across the US, you're trying to you don't think that 5 or 6 of those out of the hundreds of little locations could have not been turned into the dollar store? But that's how they do it. But that's how they do it though, sister. They're getting people who are in need of the money. You see what I'm saying? If you need the money, you're not gonna argue with how much the wage is, this, that, and the other. And then when you talk about, you know, full of poor Mexicans, if any of them are related and live in the same household, technically, you know, they see their money as combined money in a lot of ways, you know, unless they're, yeah, some of the dollar stores out here, a couple of them are as big as the grocery stores. And I mean, once again, some of them have produce, like legitimate produce. So what do you say to a group of, you know, the dollar store is another mega conglomerate. You feel me? That they're not trying to address. If they want you to be worried about Amazon and this, that, and the other, but they're not talking about how dollar stores, they're always talking about how, you know, and even with this, they only focus on the grocery stores, but let's talk about regular household items that dollar stores take away from regular businesses. There's so many different things I could talk about with these articles. You know, once again, one hand washing each other in filth. These people are dirty and wicked. They're dirty and wicked, and they know they are. And it's to a level, and it's to the point to where if somebody doesn't say something, if somebody doesn't call this out, like, like there's a lot of people who are worried about, too many things that don't matter to here and now. But I could tell people how the China trade war will affect the dollar store prices, in the next 6 months to a year, where some of the items that people see won't even be in there. You know what I mean? Or it'll go from a dollar store to a little more than a dollar store, you know? Yep. But that's how they'll do it, though. That's how they'll do it, Steven. See, well, hey, see, look, but do y'all see how it's all coming from everybody right now? Everybody's able to see how this affects all the way down. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful because all these things are relevant. And I don't blame you for not trusting the food. And I don't blame you for buying the cleaners because they have name brand cleaners, you know. However, y'all, this is where it's at. We're going to watch corporate greed take a dive this year. I said last year that Me Too was coming to an end, right? Right? See, that's what, see, right, right. That's the point though, is the same reason why the dollar store went bankrupt in the first place was because they had stuff. I don't follow you, Steven. You're gonna have to elaborate a little more. Yeah, when the dollar stores got pretty much got shut down out here about 15, 16 years ago, right? It was because they were selling, it was called the dollar store, but they had stuff in there once again that was over a dollar, that was priced over a dollar. But now we're at a junction where people really can't complain. So what happens when the dollar store only has certain basic staples for a dollar and everything costs more than that? By 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 reason of of government shutdown maybe being prolonged and the trade war doing more damage to people than they actually believe that it will. I know it doesn't seem like it's very logical for those things to marry up and to do mass damage, but like you put that little government shutdown and then let's say any kind of catastrophe happened during this partial government shutdown, then they're really going to be stressed because how long do you, especially if it takes a federal agency to respond, how long do you plan a basic contingency? Does the president make an executive order? Do you sign emergency legislation reactivating the government? I mean, so there's so many different little things, right, that go through my mind, because they're not set on one course and goal. People have to realize is we're dealing with a consortium of folks who they will get to their end destination by any means. And if they realize that getting on this bike that doesn't belong to me, just to ride it to the end of the street, just to jump off of it, if that's going to get me there faster and better, they're going to do that. You see what I'm saying? If they think that being on a bike is going to slow them down or just bring more attention than they need, right? They're not going to get on the bike. There's a true level of psychology that all this stuff comes with. 2019 needs to be weighed out with as much as I'm talking about all this. I'm going to draw it all back real quick. I'm going to reel myself in. And I'm going to say, as much as I'm talking about all this, keep in mind that These places are only going to be put there so that way the hurt doesn't feel as bad. And then you're going to see the closing of more large businesses. It's just going to be a matter of fact. With that said, um, um, if they were able to drive out all the mom and pop businesses, and Walmart and dollar stores were everywhere, and whatever other businesses that they wanted, that's the whole game sewed up. You can only go to the dollar store or Walmart. It's the whole game sewed up. Right. Fred Meyer will be one that survives until people just can't afford it anymore, because they have a very strong customer base. But there's a few of them that, God forbid, this trade war stuff doesn't stop. God forbid this little shutdown right here cause any kind of hiccups in their job. It's over. It's over. Y'all heard what the people said about the small businesses for the shutdown for the national parks? It kills them. It kills them. It means cancellation, you know what I mean? Or closing up shop. So that's a huge thing. And then we focus on this year. We got to look at now what all these people have been busting their gums about. See, they've been talking so much shit about 1619. I couldn't wait to get to this part of all this. They've been talking so much nonsense about 1619, our people. 2019 gonna have to show me. Y'all gonna our weekly things are gonna be about 2019 almost every week. I'll try to do another live stream throughout the week that is more like this, but I'm worried about 1619. I'm worried about that 400-year prophecy. I'm holding that to the fire. To the fire. I'm holding it. Some people can't take that. They hate it. They're like, why? Why does he even care about something like that? Why does 1619 even matter? And obviously it matters. Obviously it matters. If this year is the 400-year mark of the prophecy, of the horrible vision, nightmare, dream that Abraham had of his seed being stuck in a place that he couldn't even imagine. He was seeing automobiles, crazy looking homosexuals with blue hair, black men with beards and tight clothes on. Horrible. He had the worst dream you could ever have thousands of years ago when the world didn't look like that. So if we're at that 400-year junction, I'm holding this year to the fire. And I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see. We're all gonna see, but I'm gonna make sure I see with my two eyes what is real and what ain't real. These people are scared and terrified. Something's coming, y'all. Something's coming that they can't stop, that they can't avoid. You can't HAARP weather machine your way out of this one. Nope. You can't CERN super hydro collider your way out of this one. Something's coming. And if it's not this year, then what year is it going to be? Are we going to die and go to the grave? Get raised up to find out? I'm going to hold this year to the fire very vehemently. It deserves so much. It deserves that level of scrutiny. It deserves the kind of scrutiny that I'm giving people who buy businesses just to sell pieces of the businesses, right? Just to overall default and bankrupt, to not have to pay people money that they owe. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. You just wait. That's all you can do is just wait. Sister Sheila. What up, Martin? But that's all we have. But holding this year to the fire should be everybody's. See, for every black man that's ever uttered that 400-year prophecy out of his mouth, they should all be standing up and I mean, like the tip of the spear. They should be ready. They should be ready, and some of them aren't. Some of them are afraid. I pray that it's a useful year for everyone. I pray that this is a learning year for everyone. I pray that this year it's I pray that it's what they expected it to be, only for it to go ahead and change it all up, you know, and make them be like, oh, didn't see that coming. I'm trying to tell you, it needs to be that kind of year. You know, it's a blessing to be alive. Can you dig it? It's even greater when we're able to sit here and I mean, it was beautiful dialogue that everybody had, just talking about what all the different dollar stores do. You know, the different services, how they all work, where they're located. You see what I'm saying? We did more research. We did more research than that article did. Trust me. They can tell me about where a dollar store or where a grocery market was at or was not at in 1968, but this is 2018. And two people live in California that I know for sure, and two people live in Texas for sure. Right on? In different places though. So where it's like, it's beautiful to get the different perspectives where people understand. You know, obviously I live up here in Washington, but we live in the places that are where one of them, Texas, being saturated more or less with not, I won't say a lot of them, because they probably already had a bunch of dollar stores anyway. But when stores started to go down, they probably started to build a lot more in Texas because it's so freaking big, you know. If you ask me, they're trying to starve certain people out, you know. Those people in the states that don't have a lot of dollar stores, I bet you a lot. I'll put my top, middle, and bottom dollar on it, because they're white majority. They're white majority. Those people are using EBT a lot more than you think they are. Trust me. So while they're downing the dollar store, I need y'all to understand that it showed us when the dollar store started to accept EBT. Because even that junction was a huge profit for them. Huge profit. You got to think, if a person comes and spends $80 of their EBT with you, $100 of their EBT, and they get $300-400, right? $500 because they got 2 kids or something like that. Man, I mean, you know, you're talking about, that's one person out of the hundreds or thousands that may potentially do that throughout the course of the month, you know, or the course of the year over the months, which it's a lot of money. I just can't stress how much this stuff is all connected to the level of who they are genetically, right? It all goes back to that, to who they are. You know, I know I'm not gonna say that's uncomfortable to talk about, but I know that's not everybody's favorite subject. So, you know, I won't harp on that, but I know for a fact that who they are genetically plays a large role into the decisions that they make against regular people. Because there's no way that you could excuse yourself or make an excuse for why it is that you allowed all these grocery markets to fail. How? Why? How could they all fail? And then you allow for these people who've made it their business. I'm sure it's $1 billion business, to come and buy other companies, right? Supposed to be helping the companies get back on their feet, come and buy other companies. I'm sure they take the money that they get from places like that and drive those other places all the way up, so that way they can bleed these other, like the supermarkets, they bleed them dry on purpose. Anything that, okay, my point is this. Why didn't they let black people open up their own supermarkets? Why aren't there supermarkets all over black ghettos anyway? Why won't somebody just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna make my house a grocery store? You see what I'm saying? Number one, they're afraid to do that. They're afraid to get shut down by the government and be locked up for God knows how long. But the other reason is because the government never allowed for black people to ever do that. You see what I'm saying? They created this dynamic. And they created it with the white flight thing that I talked about, and the damn thing about the supermarkets and the dollar stores, about the dollar stores. So when you talk about this whole white flight stuff, and then you talk about all these stores leaving black neighborhoods, well, why weren't these black neighborhoods able to subsidize themselves? You're talking about black people who, to this day, there's a lot of black people who have their own gardens at home. You're telling me that these black people couldn't have produced their own produce and made those jobs and paid people out of their pocket from what the whole idea that black people couldn't have done it is impossible. And it makes me question the effort of the government to make sure that black people could never do something like this. Because now here we are, 50, 60 years later after stuff like that. And you have a dynamic in which they're talking about, well, all these people have poor eating habits. But they're not talking about the poor whites, they're talking about the poor blacks. But mind the fact that the largest number of recipients in this country of EBT are white people. So that means invariably the largest spender of EBT at these dollar stores are white people. Sister, nothing surprised me, because you're talking about your grandfather now. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about, somebody who lived in a time where a white man could, almost spit in your face. And if you beat his ass, you had to leave, you had to pack up your family and leave town that night, So your grandfather came from a real special generation of black people. And for him to have the money to buy something, that pissed those white people off. That's what that did. That pissed them off. You know what I'm saying? And no matter the junction in his life, that made those motherfuckers mad, because they said, what? He could afford something? Made him sick. Made him sick. They will only let, in this state that I live in, I've known of only several black people to own something, and every single one of them was married to a non-black person, regardless of the gender. Regardless of the gender, each one of them was there in this state. Every time I see it, they're married to a non-black person, And I don't mean like non-black as in like an African. I mean non-black as in, non-black. And people want to be like, well, that's because that other person ain't trying to hold them back. And no, it's because the system sees that they've submitted to amalgamation. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I really wanted to spin into real quick, just real fast. I wanted to just show this to y'all because this was on my mind. Come on. Bam. Bam. I don't know y'all guys have seen this in a video already, but let me go ahead and blow it up just a little bit so that you can see it. Okay, there we go. It can be seen. Let's go ahead and read it. The Galilean dialect, a framework for guiding thoughts and actions into conflicts that lead to synthetic solutions, which can only be introduced once those being manipulated take a side that will advance the predetermined agenda. Controlled opposition, problem, reaction, solution. Now let's just talk about this real quick. The reason why I'm bringing all this up, right, is because the Americans, just like the Chinese, as powerful, just like the Russians, as powerful as any nation, as any one of those nations are, not one of them is just going to start storm fronting into the other country. You see what I'm talking about? So, if at the highest levels, these people wanted to get something accomplished and they said, hey, look, we need your people in that country to do this. We need your people in this country to do that. The only logical way to do it is to get you to feel as if you need to be all the way totally against those people, totally questioning everything about those people. You see what I'm saying? Now, why I say that is because people talk about this nuke shit all the time, right? I mean, all the time. There's a couple verses in the Bible that I don't think are talking about nukes, that might be talking about some sort of like high level explosive. But I know for a fact that when I read scripture, and I've read, too many times that blood will run in the streets. Right on? Blood will run in the streets. If you nuke something, you're talking about cooking people and making them into human raisins. I just don't see very much blood. So with that thought process, it's not that I have to disagree with that ultimately. It's just that I can't condone that to being the truth. And they want people to believe that nukes are going to take place. Because obviously you have two sides. You have people who were like, yeah, let's blow shit up. Then you have other people who were like, no, let's not do that. So they're going to ultimately one day present something to everybody. It's not going to be like a proliferation of arms. It's not going to be like, they're going to eradicate every gun. But you guys have to realize this is what they're trying to do. You see what I'm saying? Like they don't have anything to lose by playing this game with you. You see what I'm saying? They have nothing to lose because they're at the highest level playing the game. They're at the mountaintop looking down at the ants. You see what I'm saying? Oh, I'm just now getting back to what you said. I love it. I see, but once again, people assume when you're an older man that you don't have strength anymore. But an older man is normally much stronger than people think he is. You know what I'm saying? Like that was 70 plus years of working that hit that dude and knocked him out. That wasn't 70 years of I got to sit on my ass and tell other people what to do. But when I say what I'm saying about this Hegelian dialect, right? And I say what I say about controlled opposition, right? Oh, late 70s, even better. Even better. Even better. I loves it. I loves it. Some folks just don't some folks just don't some folks don't have no respect for nobody. But Oregon is a notoriously racist state. Oregon is, you could argue Oregon is probably more racist than like Mississippi on some for real shit. Just there's no heavy influx of black people out there. And when Oregon was established, the Civil War and all that shit had already taken place. So I mean, you're talking about white hating blacks who moved west and took their black hating ways with them. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not condoning anything that, I'm saying, that white people do, but I just understand that those to be some for real racist motherfuckers. So, I'm glad that that granddaddy did what he had to do and made it about there, even if they did take him to jail. That's much better than any alternative. You know, forget the nonsense. But but just going into the Hegelian dialect thing, right? I heard of it. I'm talking about years and years and years ago, before I ever came to YouTube. I heard of people talking like that, right? The first guy that really ever stressed it was Scribe. Then I really started to like, okay, well, really what's so bad about controlled opposition? Uh, and people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the Most High doesn't kill everybody because he's like, I don't want to. I told him I wouldn't kill everybody again, at least not through a deluge, but I just told him I wouldn't smash everybody out. So I can't do that. All right. So what do I do? You see what I'm saying? And the Most High has to control his enemies through other means, so that way they can't completely obliterate us as a people. There's a level to this, you know. Um, uh, I want to say in the Book of the Kings, when they're who's the prophet who tells oh boy, I want to say it's I'm pretty sure it's King Ahab. I'm pretty sure it's Ahab, and he's like, I can't stand. Who's the prophet? Is it Isaiah? I'm not sure who it is. Like I just can't think of the prophet right now. Might have been Isaiah though. You know what I'm saying? No. Elijah? No. Can't think which prophet it was, but one of the prophets used to piss him off because he never had anything good to say about him. So he was like, I don't want to hear what he has to say. And pretty much he came forth and was like, look, let me go ahead and, let you guys know about a little prophecy that I had. And like he broke down the scene that took place in the heavens where the Most High's on the throne. And an angel come forth and says, hey, look, everybody over here bickering, but I know how we can get Ahab. The Most High's like, how? And he's like, I'm going to put a lying tongue in the mouth of his prophets. If that's not controlled opposition, I don't know what is. Once again, people, you need to understand that everything that they do, they copy from the most. When I say everything that they do, to the craziest levels, they copy the Most High. How you doing, sister? They to the jot and tittle. They try so hard to be him, right? Of course, they're men, so they could never be him. And for some odd reason, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways, or your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways. However you want to put that, doesn't matter. He doesn't get down like a human being at all. You tried to get down like him. We try to get down like him. All of us do in our own ways. But these people who have promoted this idea of Hegelian dialect, so they want you to think that what the Most High has done is wrong. But what he's done is make it to where people can actually survive, because the only other option is to kill everyone. I need y'all to understand that and get that and embrace that. The only other option for the Most High is to kill everybody. Right. So the only way to not kill everybody is to what? Is to control both sides of it. He knows who's good. He knows who's evil. He knows which evil ones he needs to send a little thought of doubt or confusion, anger or hope or whatever to them, so that way they act a certain way, giving favor to his people. He knows that when there's a person who he found favor with, who disobeys him, who goes against him, I can use these same evil instruments as a straightener for this person to remind them of exactly what it is that their purpose is right now, because they must have forgot. See, I always think it's funny that people try to make it seem as if all these things are just like the worst thing. Judgment. This is let me break into that. Judging. And once again, this is all about 2019 because we're holding this year to the fire. We're holding 1619 to the fire, more or less. But the whole point is this right here is that judgment is an instrument based solely on circumstance. But you use judgment all the time. A man who has poor judgment is a man who builds his house on sand. A man who has sound judgment is a man who builds his house on what? A rock. So when you speak on judgment and having good judgment or bad judgment, I would rather somebody be a good judge of character than a bad judge of character. And then we're talking about judgment once again. I would rather you judge me, right, based on the circumstance, than allow for my actions to go unchecked and unmitigated in any way, shape, or form. People should be ashamed of themselves. Totally should be ashamed of themselves because there's not enough judgment in the world. And these are people, once again, who are trying to copy the Most High. They think sitting in a room that has everything recorded with the person with the gown on and a little wooden thing that they call a gavel, they think that makes them the equivalent to a biblical judge when it couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Couldn't be the furthest thing from the accurate truth. I don't respect the haphazard efforts that they put forth in trying to make themselves justified and dignified. We're talking about just an evil group of people. So evil that once again will come and tell me that I'm pushing a leftist agenda and that you people are going to get the nation that Obama always dreamed of. When it's like, I don't even vote, dog. And I damn sure wouldn't vote Democrat. See, blacks historically voted Republican until Herbert Hoover, if I'm not mistaken, he dropped the ball when there was a flood in Louisiana, and it flooded out. I can't think of which ward it was, but they flooded the poor ward of black people to save the rich ward full of white people. And after that, black people were like, fuck the Republican Party. Facts. Look the shit up. Look it up before you say no. That's facts. And so with that said, I would never vote Democrat anyway. I would never vote Democrat. I don't even think people understand. When you talk about Democrat and Republican, you're talking about Federalist and Anti-Federalist. Right on. And the Democrats were the original Anti-Federalists. Right on. People who were against big government. Right. And then hold on. And then the original Federalists, people who were for government, are the fucking Republicans. That's neither here nor there. But I just had to get that out there because that's the kind of stuff that sometimes people try to go without saying. And they don't really elaborate any of it. But black people voted Republican first. They even made the joke that it was the Black Republican Party when blacks were freed from slavery. Anyhow, let's not get carried away with all that. Let's just talk about holding 1619 to the fire. Let's talk about if anything happens this year that is totally inexplicable, where we end up in the promised land, holy smokes. I'm wrong. I guess I'm wrong. But if not, if we make it through, if we make it to 1201, January 1 of 2020, Bet your top, middle, and bottom dollar. My friends, can you dig it? Can you dig it? Because that's where I'm at. Is I'm ready to wager everything I have against this year. I don't think anything's gonna happen. I just think that they're gonna try to do their best to make people believe that something's gonna happen. Because what do black people want more than anything? Hope. Hope that we can get the fuck up out of here. Excuse my language, but that would be the gist of our situation. The other black people who want to stay here, let them stay. Let them stay. Not worried about that. But I think even they, if they had the chance to leave, to actually leave, I believe they would leave. But they don't want to leave. So maybe they perish. Who knows? 2019 needs to be a year that you really ask people, what do they see coming from what has happened in the world? Do they believe that the whole world could just forget about all the evil wickedness that's been taking place for years? The sovereignty invaded. Don't follow you there, sister. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to talk some regular English, you know. Sound the trumpet? I love it. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was funny. That was funny. That was fun. I like that. See, once again, I'm just a regular dude, you know, but I like to try to speak as direct to everybody and to, you know, just in general, you know what I'm saying? Like I want somebody to watch it later and feel like I'm still talking to them, you know. That's how objective I want the vibe to be, you know. I want them to be like, I disagree. That's okay. That's fine. That's healthy to disagree. What's not healthy is to have no reason for disagreeing or having a non-bona fide reason for disagreeing. So it'd be more or less an excuse. However, nobody has to agree with anything that Demetrius says. They're grown people. They have their minds that can take them and guide them to a book, and they can read that just fine. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you do what you can do. You know, I'm glad that you do what you can do. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there is nothing wrong with trying to be the best person that you can be for your people and towards your people. Nothing wrong with that. You know, and chauffeur to be polite about it. We'll just 1 second. Uh, C sister. TH. I'm just throwing it out there. Don't worry about it though. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. Oh, you played a shot. Is that a freaking instrument? Let me look this up. You guys, man, with these words, man. Chauffeur. The hell is that? Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking chauffeur, right? I'm thinking, yeah, CH. However, man, y'all confusing me. It's a horn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm over here like, what is going on? However, you see, that's the learning curve. He's like, I play trumpet too. Let me just go ahead and toss my. I love it. I love it. I love it. See, this is what I'm talking about. Everybody wants to make it about like their topic and they don't want to humanize whatever they're doing. I would rather y'all talk and get that all out there, you know. It's fun. But so you play a ram's horn trumpet. I'll have to look into that. What was funny, what was funny though, is that who me? I have no horn to blow. You're so funny. You're so funny. I'm just talking. I'm just talking. I'm just saying stuff. If the people listen, they listen. If they don't, they don't. You know? You know, I had a guy come to my comment section one time. This dude going by the name of Christian Gray claimed he was a heart surgeon, right? And totally amazing because he said he liked to watch people that were insane, you know, and I didn't take any hit to it because I obviously must be insane to say the same, but saying the same thing. And I expect Black people eventually to just latch onto what I'm saying just a little bit, right? You know, the only Black people that have like taken it serious are like Black people who I really do feel that the Most High has kicked down some of that magical dust to wake their minds up, you know, and myself being included, you know, that it means more to me to not let down the Most High now than any point in my life. And I'm glad that you remember him because, you know, that dude is actually like his name is, so he's Cerulean Gray, right? And he's this character, and he'll deny that, you know, obviously it would be in his best interest to deny that he was the same Christian Gray. But Christian Gray and Cerulean Gray are one and the same. And the reason why I bring it up is because we have a weird understanding with one another. But he ran with an idea that I've been promoting for a long time, right? See, Black people will listen to other Black people who aren't talking about things that make you do the right thing. You see what I'm saying? So I've been saying for a long time, I mean, like you could go back to some of my, I'd say like in my first 20, 30 videos, I was saying that white people aren't humans. So just outright saying it. I was challenging people's soul constitution. I still challenge people's soul constitution. I was saying that Gentiles weren't all white. Anyway, this guy, you know, he's ran with the whites aren't white people aren't a race; they're a species, right? And I laugh to myself because I say, where did he get this illogical notion that they couldn't be a race, but they could be a species, right? And I'm like, oh, he's getting this from you. He's talking about their genetic pattern and all this other stuff. See, these are small things that I've been going over lately, right? You know, not to get boggled down in genetics, but if I were to be talking to you about the Bible right now, and I was like a real geneticist, one of the first things that I would say to you is that, did you know that Moses, excuse me, not Moses, but Noah, his three sons, they were monozygotic triplets? Person will say, what do you mean by that? That means that they all came from one sperm cell, one egg that split. Hold on, more so than that, that they gave off the same genetic imprint to the people who would repopulate the earth after the deluge. So it would only be natural to find this same genetic imprint amongst the so-called Negro man everywhere that you go, especially if they're from a lesser tainted stock of what we now know as the modern man. Reason why I bring all this stuff up is because when you have somebody who's trying to run with something that they don't completely understand, and they boister their same arguments with the same words of the same people that they're saying aren't human. Bless you. Well, it makes them, well, weak. For example, I'm not boistering my argument with Gregor Mendel, okay? I boister his. I make him seem like he's right. Because a dude who never knew who Mendel was, like specifically, I heard about him in fucking, anatomy and physiology, but that's neither here nor there. To understand who the man was, there is no clear understanding on that, because even when you read all the different websites, it's all a bunch of the same information. But the one thing that all of them don't share, because some of them want you to not know, is that he was an Augustinian monk, Bible thumping monk. Wow. So the same thing that I've been saying for the longest time, where I was like, Genesis and Gene, the first four letters all match up. There's no way that I could have put that together or planned that or wanted that to happen. That just literally, that's how it fell all into the lap of the witnesses. You know what I mean? And my people be my witnesses to everything that I've been trying to accomplish, which is show people that, number one, the folks that we deal with every day aren't full human. They're not. A simple detraction of this would be the fact that the same ovoid hair that you find in dogs, cattle, sheep, and other herds of animals are found in a certain genetic structure of people. That's something to think about. That's something to consider. And when you think about all those animals, for the most part, excluding the sheep, the hair falls down. However, I know people are like, you are just busting your gums because you just want to say something like that. It's like, no. One of the things that I know for a fact that white people are going to come to accept, and the lies and vanities and things of no true profit that they have actually, that they've gained or haven't gained, however you want to look at it, they're going to realize that they're not who they think they are. I've been saying this. I can't stress this enough. I cannot stress this enough. They know who they are already, but it's going to take a real stark reminder that they're not made of molten lava and rocks, and then they're going to fall to pieces. Can't stress to y'all enough. Can't stress to you enough. Everybody's like, well, what do you mean just the white people? I'm like, well, that's because the other straight hair people in the world, they have their own mythologies as to how they got here, their own stories and explanations as to how they got here. And for the most part, they don't deny what could be abnormalities within their genetic system. So this particular brand of Gentile is going to have to realize that you're not conquerors. You're not really the warriors that people have put you off to be. You're just savage barbarians who have no bounds and no respect for anything. Have no respect for yourself, so you have no respect for anything invariably. People are afraid. We can only pray they find out who they are in 2019. These people would have to, I mean, I don't know what it would take. Like, what kind of geneticist? What kind of who is the leading geneticist in the world right now? Because I couldn't tell you. It would take them getting on TV, tears in their eyes, talking about we have made a startling discovery in the genome of virtually every Anglo white man on this planet. Even if they're in a stage of doubt, bro, the head, the HMFIC, telling about genetics, telling them that this other part of their genetics that they don't want to disclose to them is actually this, this, and this. They know part of their genetics is, I don't, some of them have, some of them have dogs hair, like dog genetics. Some of them have horse genetics. Some of them have goat genetics. I need y'all to understand, like, this is why they can't figure it all out. Right on? This is why they can't figure it all out. These people with these rare blood types that they've never heard of. X fucking negative. You know what I mean? How? How? But this is what they're starting to understand. One of the things I've already contended to y'all is that there's no such thing as blood types. There's only a plausible idea of blood compatibility. I know it seems crazy. But really consider what I'm saying right now. People would have had to been interfertile or interfertile, and they would have had to been able to interbreed. I know it sounds but don't worry. In 2019, I pray that the science of interbreeding takes off, shoots off, whatever, something to support what it is that I've been putting forth, so that way people understand that they're not dealing with normal humans. They're not even humans really, but they're not dealing with normal humans, dog. They're not dealing with people who are from the top soil. Once again, welcome to 2019, y'all. I have nothing nice to say. Nothing. If they thought I was changing, I'm not changing. If they thought I was switching it up, I'm not switching it up. I'm just manipulating my energy in a different direction. And I know how to talk about all these different things and just let them bounce all off. It's a beautiful thing, because I know that when somebody comes and watches this later, they're going to watch a part of it, and they're not even going to watch all. They're just going to skip all over. Boom, 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 boom. They're going to see something. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And they're going to go back and listen, and then they're going to be turned off objectively by something, but not realizing that I already said to be objective. You see what I'm saying? Do y'all really get my gripe with people? Is that they're not objective enough towards me. Hold it to the fire. They don't believe in interfertility. How do horses and donkeys make babies? How do tigers and lions make babies? Regardless if it's a sterile offspring or not. Regardless of that fact. How that take place? And there's no such thing as interfertility. What? Once again, people don't want to hear that. They can't stand to hear the most basic things. But yet they pay witness to these things all the time. They pay witness to them all the time. Did y'all know that those little tiny ass little things that you call field mice, they're actually not mice? I can't think of the name of them, but it's a different type of rodent altogether. They're just in the rodent family, but it's not a mouse. Can you dig it? So it's one of those things where if people don't know, they don't know, and they're not going to know. And am I, running around, waving my flag on that? No. But I do understand that there's a level of all these things that I have to speak about. Don't nobody want to hear Demetrius talk about genetics because they don't think I know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's okay. They think I need to talk about, what I'm saying, haploids, gametes, and all these other non-servicing subjects that don't change anything. And when you say I think they're still in the stage of doubt, no, I think niggas, black people are still in doubt. Right on? I think that black people want to doubt that they want to believe that white people are actual humans, right on? And I only call them white people because that's what I've been trained to do. Right. Otherwise, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. I want you guys to think about this once again. In the year 2019, these dirty motherfuckers done spent hundreds of years dehumanizing black people, and they still do, while trying to humanize themselves after the most ungodly and demonized fucking acts, man. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Think about that shit. They still want you to think they're humans after they do the most inhumane fucking things that a dog doesn't even do to a man, that a cat doesn't do to a man, that wild leopards don't do to men, that man-eating tigers don't do to men. Yet these motherfuckers want you to think that they're humans? Man, get the fuck out of here. Tell you that you're not human. Tell you that you're three fucking fives of a human. Nigga. What? You're 60% of a human being, dog? And you fucking want me to think that these people, these things, even rate to be called a fucking human being? They're sick. They're not as sick as black people are, though. See, black people are so sick that they believe that these motherfuckers are redeemable. They're not redeemable. They're not savable. You know what's going to make them fucking fall in line? When they see true power from the Messiah. They're going to be like, we're so afraid of that dude. We're behind him. Whatever he does, whatever he wants us to do, we'll do it. Right. Right. And they're going to get thrashed like fucking wheat. Believes that. They don't want to believe that. They don't want you to think that. I told y'all, this video is supposed to be called Corporate Greed, One Hand Washing Another in Filth. But I had to change it because it was supposed to get a White Heaven title. I'm slowly working my nerves back up because I know if I do the White Heaven the way that I want to do it, they fuck around and rip my whole channel down. So I have to be real careful about how I do that. It took me forever to get the channel to this level with just you guys listening. Even if I was able to email everybody and get the channel slowly back up, it would take a long time. You get what I'm saying? And I have all these other things going on, like court and shit. So I don't need these dudes to snatch down a channel that has my name on it, where I won't be able to use my own name as a channel, which would be stupid. That would be stupid. That would be really stupid. Obviously I'd be able to use my name, but you get what I'm saying. I'd have to change it all. I don't feel like doing all that. And then I have to re-upload the hundreds of videos that I've saved. So when I do the next White Heaven, pray for me, y'all, because that's going to be the one. I've already got some research that I'm doing. I've already got some stuff I want to talk about to it. It's gonna go down. It's gonna go all the way down. You know, I'm stuck in limbo between the white trash of white heaven and white heaven. You know what I'm saying? The end that has yet to come. You know, because I've already talked about the end of white heaven, but now I really want to break down how specific actions have led to where we're at right now. You feel what I'm saying? You know, I know there's a lot of folks who think I'm biting because I use white heaven. I don't say white supremacy. No, I'm calling it white heaven. That's what it is. This motherfucking piece of land of America is white heaven. They do whatever the fuck they want over here. They do anything they want. Anything they want. Anything they want, they do it. And it don't matter. Who gonna stop them? Not me. Not me. I don't have the fucking power. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? I don't have the juice to stop them. So who's gonna stop them? And that's the whole point. They're in their heaven. When we start talking about the Dust Bowl again, listen, y'all. When we talk about the Dust Bowl again, because we're gonna talk about it, Andre thinks that's why they flagged the last video. I pray it ain't the reason. Because if it is, oh, it's about to go down. I pray it ain't the reason. Because I want to really show everyone how these same people, right, who ended up victims of the Dust Bowl, ended up some of the very first recipients of motherfucking welfare. Come on, let's get to it, right? Let's get to it. See, dudes want to talk about where people are from, right? And want to put an understanding of the geographical locale or put a stamp on their genetic understanding. Oh, he's an Irish, or he's an Italian, or he's a Jew, or he's a Russian. So let me get an understanding of what time they may have been in this country. But let me just say like this right here. Forget all that timestamp. Forget all that. Go and say to yourselves, they were giving white people land when they first got to this motherfucker and said, look, you go over there and kill them black Indians, rape the women, burn the land up, right? So that way they can't enjoy anything. Why do you think some of the land still hasn't healed from what they've done to it? Because they totally destroyed it. Totally destroyed the land. They murdered the fucking buffalo. They extincted them off of the land over here. Extincted them. Extincted them. Out of spite. Not there was no threat from these buffaloes. Out of spite, they killed them all. Once again, they don't want to talk about the Dust Bowl. Oh, because the Dust Bowl is where their woes really began. See, people don't like talking about this stuff, right? They don't want to talk about how, look, if you say Dust Bowl to people, right? Some motherfuckers, oh, it's on and popping. Right on? It's on and popping. Okay? You feel me? I mean, now mind y'all, not even 10 years before, barely 10 years before, they had just executed the Black Wall Street bullshit. Right on? You feel me? They had just got off on black people. But mine all put Black Wall Street to the side. They had just promised these motherfucking white farmers all this land who had just got their crop of cotton from their sharecroppers, from these black people. They took the money and ran, y'all. They took the money and left the black people with the bag. Okay, they left the black people holding the empty bag, like the article said. Okay, and then when they got to Oklahoma, they thought, bam, we're gonna show up here. It's gonna be, Listen, I want y'all to think about this right here. The same state that they did that murderous fucking act in is the same state that was hit the hardest by the Dust Bowl. I mean, obviously it's Oklahoma, but you know what I mean? There were other states that were hit hard by that fucking nasty ass wind that came down. I want y'all to understand that. What are the chances? Huh? Compound probability. I'm just saying, you're right. I'm saying, sister, it was way more than damn, you know what I'm saying, Oklahoma. And I'm sorry that happened to your family. I really am. But the Dust Bowl had to happen so that way they could get all the way down to Oklahoma. It had to happen. It had to happen. Dust Bowl had to happen. The dust was a must. Can you feel me? It was a must. And these are going to be things that we talk about. We're going to really go in depth on the Black Wall Street. We're not going to get so much worried about how many businesses there were, how many lives were lost. We're going to cover things like that. But what we're really going to be worried about is the moves that were made. Why did they do this after World War I and not before World War I? You know, the reason why once again, I'm going to go all into Black Wall Street again, how I've already talked about how they were jealous of Black veterans coming home. I can't stress this shit enough. The Dust Bowl, I know it sounds crazy, is like karma for what happened on Black Wall Street. It's really like karma. It's really like karma. And once again, because those who lived in Oklahoma, you could argue was hit the hardest by the Dust Bowl. Once again, it's just a matter of coincidence. Now we're gonna skip back. We're gonna boom, 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 back to this year. We're worried about this year. We're worried about holding everything that we can to the fire. We're gonna hold it all to the fire. We're gonna do our best to do that. But while we're doing that, we're gonna remind ourselves of hard lessons that our people have had to learn. You see what I'm saying? I want to say 1921, but let me look it up real quick. Black Wall Street. Man. Mm-hmm. 1921. Yep. 1921. And just almost 10 years later, you know what I mean? The Depression kicks off. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, you could. Black Wall Street is so symbolic because when you look at the Great Depression, Brother Mike, when you look at the Great Depression, and you think about Black Wall Street, and you think about what could have happened, what would have happened, and in the event or the case that blacks weren't driven out of exactly the I mean the timing couldn't have been better, you know. Once again, just a few years after the World War I has ended, right? You're talking about the roaring 20s, right? The golden 20s, the golden age. The golden age ended with the collapse of the stock market. Now, a lot of people are like, well, you know, there is no such thing as a coincidence, bro. You can argue that these Jewish bankers collapsed the stock market themselves. Sometimes, bro, things happen that are totally out of their range. I'm saying totally out of their range. And we have to admit to ourselves, we have to be honest with ourselves. You know, people say, oh, well, you know, the Jewish man owns the media. He owns this, he owns that, he owns this, he owns that. Do people not realize how the white man really thinks? See, and without giving y'all too much about the white heaven thing, I'm going to give y'all a little piece as to what I'm really going in. Blonde hair, blue eyed white men have conversations like this. Me and you are pure, you see? We both got blue eyes, both got yellow hair. We go all the way back. We trace between our roots, and they've been looking like this for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Them boys with them brown eyes, that brown hair, them boys with them yellow hair and them brown eyes and them brown hair and them blue eyes, he said, them boys funny. I'm telling you, this is how they talk. Know that. Know that. This is how they talk amongst the pure of themselves. Right. Because they separate them. Don't think they don't separate themselves from one another now. There were whole clans of white people who fucking look all the way alike. Just like there's clans of black people who look all the way alike. So why would it be hard for people to believe that there were clans of white people who only produced yellow hair, blue-eyed people? Why? Why is that so hard to believe? Huh? Why is it so hard to believe that they mated with each other for thousands and thousands of years and isolated? And I mean, I'm talking about in an isolated area where which no thing could get into their genetics. You're talking about now where their gene pool is still so recessive, right? That if a blonde hair person with blue eyes mates with a white person, not a non-white person with dark hair and dark eyes, but a white person with dark hair and dark eyes, there's a good chance that the baby right on is not going to have blue eyes. Maybe green, but there's a chance that they could have brown eyes. There's an even better chance that the hair won't be yellow, that it's going to be another color. See what I'm saying? Once again, I can't give too much of my other little stuff away. You know, 2019 is going to be a really good year. It's going to be an excellent year. Just pray for a brother. You know, I have court on the 11th. I'm not sure if I told y'all, but they tried to derail me because I set up a court date, and then they turned around and gave me a court date that I couldn't even show up to court for this particular matter. There would have been no one who was able to see me for that matter. See what I'm saying? And if I had not showed up or had not known that it was that, had I not came back to check on the situation, they would have screwed me. These people, y'all, are working double, triple overtime to try to bring me down. You know, I'm just praying that the Most High vindicates me. You know, I've done nothing wrong, y'all. I'm trying to tell. When I say to y'all, I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. There's been times in the past that I may have done some fucked up shit, but this isn't one of those. This isn't even close to one of those moments. So, yeah, just pray for a brother. I got court on the 11th, the 17th, and the 23rd. And if things don't go right on the 17th, I'll have trial on the 28th, seating from my readiness hearing right here in Tacoma. We'll see how everything goes. Still trying to get a job. Still, you know, I'm waiting for this one staffing agency to call me back. They said I'm the first person on the list, so we'll see what happens with that. A couple other places that I was trying to get hooked up at, and that really happened. You know, and once again, y'all, this is one of the things that I've been wanting to talk about. You know, is like, what is an activist? You know, is the activist a person with a six-figure job who's doing just fine, who never stands up for black people, yet they talk pro-black? Or is the activist somebody like me who I don't live on the streets, goddamn me, but I'm struggling, but I do what I can do for my people. And and there's a level of sincerity and legitimacy that I deliver, and I'm not patting myself on the back, even though I just did, but I'm just saying that's not what I'm doing to say that. I say that so that way people understand that if I say something that rubs them the wrong way, I only said what was really truly on my mind. You know, I don't have to dig into a bag of tricks to go below the belt, because if I want to say something that's true, that's hurtful, I'll just tell the truth and I won't mitigate what I'm saying, and I'll just say whatever I want. You know, I was talking to Steven earlier, and and bro was like, man, you're unfiltered. And it's to a level I am, but to a level I'm not. There's a level of sheer honesty that people deserve. You know, they don't deserve to be lied to, no matter who they are, enemy or not. Uh, I'm not the Most High. Can you dig it? I can't ordain things like that. Neither can you. It's not your job to ordain things like that. It's your job to be honest and righteous to the best of your ability, to the best of my ability also. 2019 going to be a popping year for everybody. All we got to do is stay alive, y'all. All we got to do is watch what's going to happen. It's going to be so exciting. There's going to be so many different little things that happen, state by state. But outside of the states, what we've got to be looking for, what we got to be conscious of, is look for what goes on in the Eastern Bloc of Europe, right? Watch that entire situation closely. You guys need to be watching, I wouldn't say Russia, but watch what's going on in Yemen still with the Saudis, however you want to say it. Watch what's going on with them. The Yemeni people are the most downtrodden people right now. I mean, those black people, I wouldn't trade places with them, And not that they're not from the same stock of the real black Arabs, right? Who sold us over here in the first place. So China, give me 1 second, and then I'm gonna get right to China. A lot of those people in Yemen are probably related to the people who helped fund the slave trade in the first beginning. But that doesn't mean that I want to see people who look anything like me suffer by the hands of people who look less like me. And some of them don't look anything like me. With that said, China, man. Okay, so let's start with their economy. China's economy, people think it's really strong, but if you actually read articles about the actual Chinese people, man, there's not as much hope as you would think. There really isn't. Let me see if I can't pull up one of these links from my email real quick, from my promotion side. That and then I'm gonna put the link here in my put the link here in the damn thing. One moment. Yeah, I got one right here. Come on. South China Post. Come on. Takes a little while for all this stuff to load on my computer sometimes. I'm gonna be doing the most. Alrighty. Copy. Yeah. Yeah. Let me paste this here real quick. And this is just a link to a website where I get some of my stuff about China from. Ah, it's doing me like that. Hold on 1 second. I got something for that ass. 1 second. They want to play that game, huh? I have to go back to my email real quick. But China, while I'm going back to my email, they're going through a lot of financial turmoil that people really don't even understand. And one of the things that goes untalked about in China is their problem with homosexuality, dog. Like a lot of people don't talk about this, right? But let's just be frank. This is a country of people who prided themselves on having little boys, and you can only have 2 children per family, right? So then what happens? Let's just be real. Let's just, let's just be real. Then what happens? Huh? You got a country full of little boys running around, not enough little girls. So then what's going to happen? Homosexuality is going to is homosexuality is a byproduct. Can you dig it? Homosexuality is a byproduct of the lifestyle that they chose. They chose not nearly enough women. I bet you China's man to woman ratio, and I'll look into it, but they'll probably lie. I bet you their man to woman ratio is closer to 50-50. You know what I'm saying? The China man, another problem that he's having right now, huge problem. The Muslims. I know nobody talks about this shit. You know, oh, no problem, bro. That's, man, come on, man. Come on. That's what we do. But the Muslims been a huge problem in China. The Islamic faith has been a problem in China for as long as Muslims have been, in existence. And that's not knocking the people of Islamic faith. I couldn't care less what they believe, but I know for a fact that the people who follow Muhammad in China are going through some rough times right now. There was an article I read on MSN not too long ago talking about how they had over 1 million people, who were Muslims, trying to reprogram these people back into society. And they're like, we'd rather these dudes either be Christians or these dudes be some form of temple monks than be a freaking Muslim right now. Now, the only logical understanding I would have of this is that little crease between China and Russia, right. The last thing you want with those two countries are for millions of people who have the potential to arm themselves, right, with jihad on their mind, gaining orders, and then going back into their respective countries or going into the other countries respectively. See, this is why the Euro-Asia thing is such a big deal. You haven't noticed a lot of Russians look Asian. Even Vlad Putin looks Asian. If you really think about think about Vlad Putin. Pull up a picture of him right now. Matter of fact, I got you. Don't even worry about it. I got you. We gonna pull up a picture of Vlad. And then we gonna see images. Bam, this is the perfect one. Come on, internet. Thank you, internet. Come on. Boom. And this is real quick. Look at him. Look at him. Right on? If he don't look like a white-skinned Asian dude, I don't know what he look like. And that's just the point that I'm getting at. That these are people who have been intermingling for such a long time that they have the freedom to go from one place to another, seemingly, unhinged. Uh, One of the greater issues still that China faces is not this trade war, but it's actually pollution. I would say of everything that China's going through, they'll argue it's something else. I would say that China's biggest issue right now is pollution, especially within the big cities. They're they're not going to continue to place toxic waste in perfectly fertile land. They're not going to continue to do that. You see what I'm saying? Which is why they stopped taking trash from everybody, because they have to figure out their situation. Dude, that place is so sick. That place is sick. People talk about, how big the military is or how strong the military is. If people don't understand that the reason why China was trying to make rice out of plastic was because they're trying to figure out a way, how do we wean our people off of food from America? Because these sorry fucks still feed us. As hateful as much as they want to hate America, America still helps the Chinese feed a robust portion of the population. America still helps a lot of the world feed itself. That's the one go-to that some of these Gentiles are going to be able to like ride their whole cape on. They're going to be able to say, well, I never hated anybody, and maybe they didn't, and I tried to do the best I could, and maybe they did. Right. And those are going to be the ones that get saved. And the ones that don't are obviously going to be the ones who were feeding people so that way they could fuck them over. Don't worry. Anything that you do that's righteous is still going to be righteous. But if you do something evil, it's still going to be evil. Come on now. That's what I was talking about the last time I was speaking on things like that. But, I still got some time left in me. I still got a little gas in my tank. I'm gonna go a little bit further with y'all. 2019 is gonna be crazy for China, just like it's gonna be crazy for the U.S. But another one of the big reasons why it's gonna be crazy for China, man, is because you're about to see a decrease in bought goods from China from the U.S. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna hurt them. That's gonna hurt them. Niggas like, what about Amazon? What about when these new taxes that they're getting ready, because once again, they're gonna do some more shit with taxes. Don't think that the tax reform that they did is the last time that they fuck with taxes, especially while D. Treasy's the president. If anything comes their way, where even if it's not exactly related, or if it doesn't exactly hinge on income, it may have something to do with how is what going to affect us? How is what going to affect us, sister? The Chinese or D. Treasy and his fuckery? I'll wait for a second. Okay, so the dollar store. You got to go back to that, right? There's a lot of those goods that are made in China. Some of them made in the U.S., but a lot of them made in China. Right on. Not just the dollar store. A lot of other major stores that import from China, like Walmart. Because I'm sorry, man. I be talking about way too much stuff, bro. If I stuck to one topic, they probably wouldn't be asking me so many questions. So that's my fault. But not importing from China, I'm not saying it hurts you or me. It doesn't hurt us, but it's going to hurt the U.S. See how they've been able to bolster this so-called we have such a powerful economy and this, that, and the other is because they were able for years to get the Chinese to start making the goods for the dirt. Now, mind you guys, the reason why they sent the jobs to China in the first place was because they were fighting 2 wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, and they couldn't afford to keep the manufacturing here. They'll tell you whatever. That's what the real fucking reason was, okay? And they had to get the manufacturing this. They had to get the same stuff done for cheaper. And they weren't going to be able to get it done by these American workers who wanted to be paid top dollar, which they felt that they deserved. So what did they do? They took those same jobs out of here during a wartime and sent them to China. So for almost 2 decades now, we've been totally dependent on Chinese goods being at the right price because they don't have American goods at a sustainable price that can compete. So if this trade war gets any worse, which I see it could possibly get a lot worse, that shit that happened in Canada where they arrested the CEO for the ZTE company, that young lady, when she got arrested, that fucked up whatever kind of deals that they had going on because Trump thought he was slick. Trump thought he was going to be down there. What is it? Buenos Aires. He thought he was going to be down there in Buenos Aires shaking hands with Xi Jinping while he was having the Canadians arrest old girl. The Chinese is like, I don't know what the fuck this nigga think he's doing. But we got something for your ass, dog. So what they're doing right now is they're allowing companies like Amazon, Google, and other large companies to come in there and to rework some of these tariff deals with them. So that way they'll eat the brunt of the loss right now, but they'll still make their money back. You see what I'm saying? Whereas with the Americans, these goods are only going to cost you more money. So it's supposed to be cheap because it's coming from China. But what happens when it's not cheap coming from China no more? Do you still import from the Chinese, that same product? Or do you try to recreate an American industry for it? See, it creates a very interesting dynamic. They're not there yet. The white man's praying to God that they don't go there, that it never gets there. Because then they'll have to actually explain themselves as to how did it get this bad in the first place? Clothing manufacturing, really good question. Okay, 2 things. I'll start with the more extreme one first. The more extreme thing with clothing manufacturing is that people will probably start, I don't know how to say it, like they'll find somebody who can make clothes. And especially if clothes start to get very expensive, somebody who's already got the deal on the cotton, already got a sewing machine, already has, embroidery items and things like that. Somebody who already has that understanding there's a good chance that if the U.S. were to fuck up horribly, a person like that could easily start to make a lot of money. It's just like food, where people only go to restaurants because they have money, but they wouldn't go to restaurants if they didn't have that much money, and they would learn to cook. You see, so I don't see the total fall of the country coming in 1 year. You know what I mean? But if it all happened this year, then you would see at some point in the year barter economics have a silent uprising, but it would come back to some degree. People barter already. People have always bartered, but it would gain a much stronger foothold because now because I might exchange my service for your service as opposed to money for money. See, but that's a blessing for you though, sister, because maybe a person like yourself says, you know what, I don't want to do this work anymore, but I can train somebody to do this work. And training someone who is either close to you or not going to take the bag and run, so to speak, is also a very beneficial thing because people who are grateful for something that you show them, they never ever betray you. They never betray you. They might let you down, but they don't betray you. You know, um, um, other side of the clothing manufacturing, what I see was a little more tangible right now is the prices of clothes are going to steadily go up. The more Sears and J.C. Penney's that close, the more Ross inventory is going to increase. The Goodwill's inventory will increase. They'll look nicer. The prices for those places will go up. So as opposed to going to the Goodwill and getting a pair of jeans for 50% off, or even to like the Salvation Army and getting a pair of jeans for 50% off and paying $2 or $3 for a pair of used jeans, a person might pay $10, $15, almost $20 now for that same pair of used jeans. And inflation is going to hurt a lot of things. China not taking people's trash hasn't kicked in full gear yet. For everybody who lives closer to the West Coast or just closer to the coastal line in general, they're not going to feel that hit like the Midwest and the central states are going to feel more immediate than all the other states are going to feel. Because by China not taking anybody's trash, right? You're talking about people who used to be able to sell trash to China and make money. Some of these people were making money. I'll get to that in a second. Some of these people were making money just by selling copper to China, selling old rubber to China. They were making a killing. Now the Chinese won't even buy the shit. Then certain other countries, because they're having problems with pollution, right? You see what I'm saying? You see how this all starts to work now? They're having the same issues with pollution, so they're like, we're good. We'll buy the clean copper, not the dirty copper. You see what I'm saying? We'll buy the clean cardboard, not the dirty cardboard. And because you have this dynamic, what it costs somebody, what is a menial charge for their waste right now could easily increase by the end of this year. What normally costs somebody tens of dollars could cost them over 100. Easily. It could easily happen. This is why a lot of these big time real estate guys are like, get an apartment, get an apartment, get an apartment, get an apartment, right? Even though they might even own houses. I've listened to a bunch of these dudes. A lot of them own houses, and they're still like, they still have an apartment. And I think I know why, because they don't trust this housing market. However, let me talk about Canada real quick for my brother. Okay, so two things about Canada that are low key about Canada. Because Canada's so wide open, right? And I'm not saying that this only happens for black men, but bro, I live in Washington. You know what I'm saying? Like, people tell me to go to Canada all the time. I don't know why, because they're like, they love black men out in Canada. But they're talking about non-black women. So when they say black people should move to Canada, they're really talking about black men, and they're talking about black men that are trying to get with women that aren't black. So unless you're going up there trying to look for a chick from the islands, right? Which, that if she's black, she more than likely her people from the islands. Then you're going up to Canada for all the wrong reasons, you know. And let me read what you're saying, sister. So they want us to say American food. No, they can't even raise the prices on the exported food. Here's why: because the money owed to the Chinese, right? The food that they give to these guys is a small. Let me explain it like a businessman would explain it. If I was a Chinese and the Americans owed me all this money, the Americans wouldn't be able to make a deal about lowering the price of food because of how much food they waste daily within the country. So my argument would be contingent that the food we're taking from you, we're helping you not waste food, number one. And you're also doing us a service by slowly, incrementally doing a small bit of damage to the debt that you owe us. That's my businessman mentality about it. Somebody else might try to argue something different otherwise, but when you're at the table, and we all know what that's like. When you're at the table, it's way different. You know what I'm saying? Cats want to act like like the Americans have all the leverage. You know what I mean? Americans don't have all the leverage. If they had all the leverage, they wouldn't be in this situation. You feel me? You know, it sounds funny, but it's true. Think about it for a moment. If they sent to China, if there was a way to keep fresh, hypothetically, to keep fresh all the wasted food, right? That's wasted daily in America, you could argue that they could probably say, hey, look, we want more money for our food because we already have we have a low overhead for what we waste, very low overhead for wasted food. So what we're giving you are goods that we could use to feed our own people or to feed people elsewhere and abroad. You see what I'm saying? Because that's not the case and they waste tons of food every day. Chinese can capitalize on the other side of the argument, saying that because they waste so much food, what you send to us is not even going to touch the debt that you owe to us. Another reason why the Chinese have the American by the nuts is because they can't get the British by the balls. And the reason why I say that, what I'm saying is going to go into this. They can't get the British by the balls, okay? The Chinese, people think that the Chinese are sending in a bunch of dope into the country. They send in some dope, but the Chinese are smart enough to send their dope through the Taliban up through Mexico. Little known fact. However, and before people try to say that the cartel and the triads have never done business and don't do business, don't kid yourself. However, Trump is fighting with them because I know this is going to sound weird. They wanted to be able to blame China for the shutdown. You see what I'm saying? They wanted to be able to blame the Chinese for the government shutdown. They wanted the trade war to be so severe from its offset till now that they were like, we have to do a government shutdown. They couldn't blame the Chinese for that. So they found another reason with the non-funding of the wall. Now, the reason why I say that is because I want y'all to really think, how hard do you believe it is to get the wall funded? He's only beefing with China so that way, whatever next suffering that the American people go through, they can blame it on Donald Trump. But they don't realize that it was already going to happen. The Chinese were going to inflict these damages anyway. A good leader takes the blame for something, even when he's not to blame. A good leader. A great leader holds those accountable who are to blame, though. And see, because Donald Trump, no offense to him, doesn't really know who to hold accountable, he can only be a good leader. At very best, be a good leader. And take the blame of the brunt of, you can blame me. You can blame me for going in and playing hardball with the Chinese. Blame me. But really, it'll be things that were already going to happen, that were set in motion 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago by the Chinese, that were going to happen to this date, that they had already mentioned were going to happen to this date. That situation overseas, Far East, is so complicated. People want to talk about markets. and things like that. But I like to talk about just the basic human understanding to all of it, you know. And on the most basic level, China doesn't seem like it, but there's there the people feel so suppressed there by President Xi Jinping that some of these people are comparing this to the old school China, right on. And the why that's so important is because back then dissidents were pretty much killed. So if China's taken that kind of step back, that should tell us where they're really at financially and all these other things. It should tell you. I mean, I want y'all to think about this. People want to say that, oh, they're over there helping those Africans build because they want to take advantage of those Africans. No, if the world were to fall apart today, you would want an ally. You would want an ally that would help you, could help you to surround all the other forces right in that area. Who outlies past Africa other than the eastern parts? You know what I'm saying? Other than the Far East Europe. But even then, they don't encompass it, and you'd have to come through the water to get there. Right, right, right. You see what I'm saying? It's way deeper than what a lot of people know. I would argue to a lot of you guys that some of these black people, most of the black dudes who they're helping in China, are of the same Middle Earth stock of people who came up and fucking populated China before the Mongol invaders who were centaurs came down. And I'm not going to go into the fact that they were centaurs right now. That's why they wanted to build the Great Wall of China, because they were not humans who were coming there to attack them. However, the same barely human bastards have taken over fucking China. That's why when you watch movies of them tell the story of their history, it doesn't make sense because it's all the people look the same. How would you have known the difference between a Mongol invader and a regular Chinese man hundreds of years ago if they looked exactly the same? And in the movies, they speak the same languages. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. However, I'm going to end on this note because this is a really powerful one. Haven't talked about Middle Earth for a little while. I mean, I go back about it, but I haven't really hit on anything really tough. Middle Earthers. This is fact, not fiction. Those who came up out of the earth during the morning when the sun was up worshiped the sun. And these are people who worship the sun even now, and people who worship the sun in ancient days. The people who came up out of Middle Earth and the moon was shining worship the moon. And those people worshiped the moon back then, and there's people who still worship the moon now. The reason why this is so important is because you have one dynamic, right, where obviously it's the day, and then another dynamic where it's at night. People are like, why is this so important? Why does this matter? It gives rise to their understanding. Okay? It tells you what they actually know. It gives you everything about them. So when you read that the Egyptians worship the sun, it tells you what brand of Middle Earthers took over Egypt. When you hear that other people worship the moon, right, it tells you what brand of Middle Earthers took over that place. I need y'all to understand. So when you guys are dealing with modern history now, when you guys are dealing with modern people now, okay, it's that same thing that you need to look at. That these people who are in so many ways infatuated with the sun, in so many ways infatuated with the moon, right? These are people who are more than likely from those bloodlines, especially when we talk about entire nations that pay homage to these things to this day. That That, my friends, I know I've said that once before, but I wanted to really give full context to it. That the Middle Earth, that the people who came from Middle Earth, when the Tower of Confusion or the Tower of Babel was totally separated, and then the earth was one piece, and it also became divided. The people who made the journey from the middle of the planet, when they came up and the sun was there, they never seen nothing like it. They never seen no sun before. They seen the fake imitation sun in the middle of the earth, but they never seen the real sun. They only heard stories about it. Only heard stories about it. So when they came up and seen it for the first time, they were totally taken aback. Totally, their minds were blown. And it's the same thing for the people who came up and made that treacherous journey to the top of the fucking soil and seen the moon for the first time and had only heard stories about the moon. And we're like, this is beautiful. This is why they worship these things. Because this is the first thing they seen was a celestial body, y'all. That's the first thing they saw. No matter what, they would have to have seen one of them. And some of them seen both at the twilight. Holy smokes, I forgot all about them. Holy smokes, don't let me forget about them. That's why I'm glad I'm talking about it and I'm exercising the thought. But do you guys get what I'm saying? That this gives rise to their beliefs and their understanding. This is why some of the symbols even have the sun and the moon both together. Come on now. What are the chances of that? That's their Middle Earth Alliance. And we're going to have to look into cultures on that level. We're going to have to look into races of people on that level to hope to get understanding as to what it is that they're truly thinking. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm sure per worship of the sun or the moon, there are certain mannerisms and etiquette that are practiced among the groups of people. Certain things are universal or are similar, but certain things are, I'm sure, are diametrically opposed. Positive. That, my brothers and sisters, is our welcome to 2019. That's how we come into the year. That's how we do it right there. Talk about everything. We don't leave nothing off the table. We put it all on the table. If we didn't talk about it today, it's just because it didn't come up. But just look for me, y'all. Look for me. Today's Tuesday. I'm gonna try to get something done this week before. Obviously, there ain't no more football games on Sunday that I'm gonna have to go to Seattle for. So I'll be able to do the live streams a little bit earlier if that doesn't bother anyone. If it does, if that messes with anybody's like normal time, like I look forward to you doing it later on, then I'll keep it kind of in the evening. But if not, I'll adjust the time accordingly. However, I appreciate you guys. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, my soul. It is always an honor. It is always a blessing to be able to just run my suck and and just tell you whatever I think it is not just relevant and important, but gonna give you, a little pep in your step. When you look at somebody, tomorrow, they're like, this sucker don't even know. They built that fucking Dollar Tree so that way they could try to drive down our health. You know what I mean? This sucker don't know that lo and behold, when they close those, what is it, like 40 to 60, Sears this year, that's going to hurt a whole bunch of people who do a whole lot of different jobs. There are so many things that are going to happen in this year of 2019. And don't be surprised. They're going to try to hold it together. Don't be surprised. They're going to try to keep it together. They're going to do their best to keep intact what it is that they believe is intact. A marathon, my friends, is not a popularity contest. It is a foot race. And with that said, I salute you. Much love, and may you guys all have a blessed week to start this year with. I'm out.